Hello, my name is Charity Lotion, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints living in Butte, Montana. And my son, Isaac Kohler, is serving a mission for the Oakland, San Francisco mission as a representative of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am a member, but I am not an official representative of the church. So I just want to share the gospel and be a missionary as I think about my son and how he is gathering Israel. I also want to help in that process. So there are many voices out there that we hear as it pertains to religion. And those voices, sometimes when we hear them, we feel truth. We feel like what they're saying is true. But it feels also sometimes like we're missing something. Like there's something that just doesn't connect. Like there's something that isn't quite right. And so in our church, we have the fullness of the gospel. We are the true church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on the earth today. We are Christ's true church, and he gives us our leaders revelation. And so I want to share what I know about the church with you, and I want to give you a fullness of the truth as it pertains to God. That is what this broadcast is about, and we will be doing this 2 times a week this month, maybe more in the coming months, but because of time restriction I can only do it 2 times a week, and they will be called Missionary Messages. And I will be creating a website that has the write-ups of the podcast that I will be doing, and that will be done by the end of the month. So you'll be able to go there and reference scriptures and things like that we were talking about. And in the future months, as I get more organized, we will also have beforehand what subjects we'll be talking about, and the references will be listed so you can study a little bit before we talk about those subjects. So a lot of things that draw people away from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is polygamy. So a lot of people know our church because of polygamy. And we did practice polygamy when the church first started for a few years, but we don't anymore. And we will talk about that at the end of the year, because that is really not an important part of the church. And so I don't want to focus on that, because the principles and doctrines and the teachings are what's really important, and that I want to help you understand before we get into the subject of polygamy, because polygamy really isn't that important. So, but there is a reason we used it, and we'll talk about that. And our official name is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We are not called Mormons, as many people have nicknamed us that. And so they don't think we're Christian, but Jesus Christ's name is in our church. So we are Christians. And we'll talk about that probably this month. We'll talk about the name of the church. And also, we are known to have a lot of restrictions. And so people are like, oh, I don't want to go to that church because we can't do anything. But we'll talk about that in the next 2 months, probably next 2 to 3 months. And I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised that we really have more freedoms than restrictions. So I think as I take a different perspective and teach you about these things, that you will be enlightened, and I hope that is the case. So this is a space where you can come to learn about the gospel. So there are many people that don't want missionaries coming to their home, and they don't want family and friends talking about the church. So if you're one of those people, then this is a place you can go to learn and understand more about the church without the hassle of having to have people try to commit you, because we will. We like to talk about the church. We like to help people understand about the church, and we want you to come to church with us. We want you to become members of the church, and that is something that we strive for. That's what we work for, gathering Israel, and you are all part of Israel, and we are gathering Israel in the last days. So we will talk about it if you allow us to. But hopefully after you learn a little bit about what I'm talking about, you will want to invite the missionaries into your home and your friends and family. You'll invite them to talk about it, and you'll have more enlightened conversations, because you'll actually know more about the church. And that's what I'm hoping that you can get from these messages, which will be called Missionary Messages. So this is not a political podcast. But saying that, I am going to be using political leaders as examples in the podcast. And I want you to be able to put yourself in 4 categories that I'm going to place these political leaders. The reason I'm using these political leaders is because they talk a lot about religion and their beliefs in their podcasts. They're political leaders, but they incorporate God into almost every broadcast that they have. And I think that's important, that we incorporate God into political places. And we don't see that a lot in the news and things like that. And so I think it's important that we do that. And that's why I connect to these leaders, is because my son introduced me to them a few years ago, and before that, I didn't know anything about what was going on in the world. I was not a political person. But you can ask my kids now. I'm pretty political, and I talk about politics a lot because of them, because they gave me this knowledge and enlightened my mind that I didn't even know I was missing. And I think that's a lot of us in the world. We're so in the dark, and these political podcasters, even though they're not so much in the dark about God, they don't know as much about God as they should know. And I have knowledge to give them. They gave me so much knowledge that I feel like I'm a better person and I'm more enlightened because of them. And so I want to share with them what I know so that they can have more knowledge, so that they can be enlightened. And hopefully, because they have such a big influence on the world, and even in America, that they can bring this knowledge into their podcasts, and that they can change the world even a little bit more and a little bit better, because they have the fullness of the gospel instead of just parts of the gospel that they speak about on their podcasts. So I first want to just thank them for all the knowledge they have given me and all that they do for the world, and the courage and the strength that they show us. And these podcasters are from the Daily Wire. And they are Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Ben Shapiro. And I'm going to place these 4 podcasters into 4 categories that I hope you can find a place in one of those categories. So they teach us about a lot of truth. They teach us about history. And it amazes me how on the top of their head they can just recite things from history. I'm not very good at that. It's like they all have photographic memories or something. It's pretty amazing. And I like it. I like it a lot. And so, but one thing that amazes me about them all is that they've never read the Book of Mormon. Like, this is a major part of history. This Book of Mormon is like our history, our American history. And they have not read it. And I just can't believe how smart they are and how much they know about history, but they don't know anything about the Book of Mormon. And they don't know, I had a Book of Mormon here, but I don't know where I put it. So they don't know anything about the Book of Mormon or its history. And we're going to talk about this pretty quickly in the next few weeks, and I'm going to give you information on the Book of Mormon. And so they are missing something, and I want to give them something. They have given me so much that I want to give back to them. And one thing they talk about in their podcast all the time is common sense. They're always like, we are lacking common sense in the world. These people, they don't know, they don't have common sense. It's like they stress this concept of common sense all the time. And I agree with them. Like, there's a lot of common sense missing in the world today. But when they hear the gospel, I think that phrase common sense is going to like be a lightning bolt to their minds. And they're going to say, holy cow, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in this Book of Mormon has a lot of common sense to it. And we also believe in the Bible. We read the Bible and we have the Doctrine and Covenants. But it's just going to be like so enlightening to them because they do recognize truth, and they do apply it into their lives. I don't see, and I invite them to read the Book of Mormon and invite all of you to read the Book of Mormon, but I don't see how they can reject the Book of Mormon when they read it because of the truth that they do catch on to, that the common sense that they do have. And so reading the Book of Mormon is a really big part of our history and knowledge. And so when they read it, I can't imagine them not recognizing truth in it. So I invite you and them to read the Book of Mormon. So the 4 categories that I'm going to be placing them in, and I hope that you can relate to these categories. So Candace Owens, she's a member of the Protestant church, and I hope I'm getting that right. I'm pretty sure that's what she is, because she had a whole podcast on it once with her husband and this other gal that was a Protestant. And she's questioning her religion because they're letting a lot of the New Age type things into it. And also she's questioning it because she has a husband who is Catholic, and he is very religious. Like he really believes in the Catholic religion. And but she's not quite sure. So she's kind of on this crossroad of, do I leave my religion? Do I go to my husband's religion? But I would say don't go to either one because this is what you're looking for. And I'll explain that a little bit. But if you find yourself in that category where you have a spouse that is in a different religion and that is different than yours, and you're seeking something because the religion that you're in doesn't seem quite right, but also the religion that your spouse is in maybe doesn't seem quite right either. And so you're kind of confused and you're at these crossroads. So that is one of the categories. One thing that I heard Candace Owens say the other day was, if you don't see something that you want, then build it. And so, Candace, that's what I'm doing. I'm building something for you and the hosts at the Daily Wire to learn and to grow more knowledge in. So Matt Walsh. Now Matt Walsh is Catholic, and he's in the category of everything is not quite kosher. So he's a good Catholic, it seems. He practices his religion. He does what he's supposed to do. He goes to church. But in his podcast, many times he'll talk about things that are going on in his religion that he really doesn't agree with. Like, he's pretty open about it. And so he talks about these things. And so he's like, oh, I'm still into my religion, but at the same time, it's like, this seems kind of different. Like, something's going on that doesn't seem quite right. So it's not like he's looking for something new or something different, but he's, in his mind, he's saying, oh, I don't know what's going on here. And then there's Michael Knowles. Now, he's not seeking any kind of religion either. He's Catholic. But he's different than Matt Walsh in the fact that Matt Walsh kind of says, this isn't right that the church is doing this or something, where Michael Knowles will dismiss it. Like, if he sees information that doesn't seem quite kosher, he'll be like, well, it doesn't matter because this is true. This is the true religion. This is what's going on. This is what I believe. And so it doesn't matter if something seems kind of strange, because this is what I believe, and this is what I'm going to continue to believe, and I'm going to tell you guys to believe it too. He's very, Matt Walsh isn't so much, but Michael Knowles really wants people to become Catholic. He's kind of like a missionary on his show. He's trying to convert people to the Catholic Church, and that's okay, because, you know, I love learning about the Catholic Church from him. He talks a little bit about more of its doctrines and principles than Matt Walsh does. But I think it's interesting. I love learning about other religions because I belong to a religion, but I don't know a lot about certain religions. And so I love learning about them. I love when I have friends that are in different religions because I learn from them. And I can see the difference between theirs and mine. And it's interesting. And so I like listening and hearing about what he has to say. So he's one that is kind of a stickler. Whether it seems right or not, he's going to stick to it. So if you're in that category, then hopefully I can enlighten your mind and open up your eyes a little bit. And then there's Ben Shapiro. So Ben Shapiro is like hard as a rock. I don't watch Ben Shapiro as much as the other three. Now, Candace, I make sure I watch her all the time because, well, she's a woman, and I just think that she's interesting and that what she says resonates more with me than what the other ones say. I can relate to her a lot more. And sometimes I think that she's already like a member of the church. Yes, Candace, you do so many of the things and believe so many things that our church believes. It amazes me that you haven't even investigated it yet, for how much knowledge you love to gain and how much knowledge you love to give to others. Just amazes me that you haven't read the Book of Mormon and that you don't know anything about our religion. I've heard you talk about our religion a little bit, and you've said you know nothing about it. So I would challenge you to find out something about it, and maybe listen to what I am saying. But definitely read the Book of Mormon so you know a little bit. So Ben Shapiro is in the category of he's not gonna move anywhere. He is where he is, and that's where he plans to stay. So and he's a Jew. So this is a category of other religions, like other than Christianity. So if you fall into that category, Ben, he reminds me sort of like a turtle, like a turtle with a hard shell and a soft inside. So it's really hard to penetrate that shell because he is just so determined to stick with what he knows. Like he's not going to be moved one way or the other. Like he has this conviction, and that is his conviction, and he's going to stay with it until the day he dies. So, but then there's a softness that I think if you could penetrate through the tough shell, you might be able to find it. You might be able to soften his heart a little bit and be open, I hope, to the things that I say. And like I say, I don't know as much about the Jewish religion, but from what he says, but I don't watch him all the time, so I don't know as much information as maybe he shares. So those are the 4 categories that I hope you can place yourself into. And I want you to remember that as we talk about these things, the gospel is simple. Jesus Christ, when he taught the gospel in the New Testament, he taught it in simple ways so that we could understand. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's simple. It's not difficult to understand. It's not difficult to follow. It really isn't. It's simplistic. And the doctrines, the principles, there's a lot of information. I'm not saying that because there's so much information that we can obtain. And that's a wonderful thing because God just gives us so much information that we can go to look for answers and things like that. But it is a simple gospel, and I hope that you can feel how simple it is as we talk about it this year. So I want you to be able to feel like I'm talking to you personally. I want you to feel like you're hearing some truths. And I hope that I can bring you closer to the truth. I hope that you can see all the advantages of being a member of this church and what it can be. And I hope by the end of this year that you just, you can just recognize that our church is the true church, that we do have the fullness of the gospel, that we do follow Jesus Christ. And it's amazing the knowledge that we have and the things that we know about. It's just an amazing thing. And I hope and pray that as you listen to these messages, your heart will be softened and that you will have an open mind, and that you will want to have missionaries in your home, because my son is on a mission and I want him to be in people's homes. I want him to be a missionary that can baptize others and that can feel the joy and what it means to gather Israel in these last days. And so I hope that by the end of the year, you invite missionaries into your home and your friends and family that want to teach you the gospel. So that is my message. And I hope that you come back on Friday, because on Friday we'll be talking about baptism. And mostly the category that I'll be putting us into is Candace Owens and Michael Knowles. So I hope that you can join me, and I hope that you can learn something and it will enlighten your mind. So I will see you on Friday.